reaction to the civil rights protests erupted in violence across the South, nowhere more chilling than in Birmingham, Alabama.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal.
Today we celebrate the life and legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. And part of that legacy is not only what he accomplished as an individual, but what the civil rights movement accomplished as a whole, the fight for human rights, the fight for social justice, and the fight to really make sure that we are living up to the creed of really making this a place where all people are created and treated equally.
The time is always right to do what is right. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to transform the bleak and desolate midnight of man's inhumanity to man into a glowing daybreak of freedom and justice. Now is the time to open the doors of opportunity to all of God's children. Now is the time to change the pending national elegy into a creative psalm of brotherly love.
She was there for the buses in Montgomery, the hoses in Birmingham, a bridge in Selma, and a preacher from Atlanta who told the people that we shall overcome. Yes, we can.
The time is always right to do what is right. The time is always right to do what is right.
The time is always right to take. The time is always right to do what's right. Now is the time to give kids space and love.
The time is always right to do what is right.
It's now time for me to help the environment.
Yes, we can.
It's now time for me to deposit money to animals. Now time for me to make art. Now time for me to do what's right. The time is always right. Time is always right to do what's right. Now is the time to take care of butterflies and ladybugs, from spiders, bees, and snakes. Now time for me to take a nature stroll. Now is the time to take care of dogs. To do what is right for other people, animals, and the environment. The time is always right to do what is right. Now is the time for me to take care of animals. Make the world have good houses. The time is always right to do what is right.
And now it's time for me, or us, to shine our light.
The time is always right to do what is right.
We will make helpful, not hurtful choices.
As we think about the legacy of Martin Luther King in that time, it's really important that we understand that our school also played a significant role during that period of time.
The time is always right to do what is right.
The time is always right to do what is right.
Our founders very much grasped that understanding of the time is always right to do what's right. And in founding our school as one of the first, if not the first, integrated school in North Carolina, understood how important it was to really create a place where all of the students, all of the staff, where people could see what was possible.
The time is always right to do what is right.
Now is the time
to stop violence, to think about others before ourselves, to help stop the fighting.
It is now time for me to help the people in Afghanistan.
The time is always right to do what's right.
Now it is time for us to stop producing so much garbage. And now it is time for me to help the people in need.
Now it's time for me to lead with kindness.
To help the environment. It's now time for me to be kind to others, myself, and now it's time for me to help the environment, animals, plants, and anything in need.
And it's time to get serious about climate change.
It's time to listen, to give a lending ear. Everyone needs someone that will listen to them and their story.
Now it is time for me to stand up for animals and pick up garbage on the ground. Time is always right to do
And now it's time for me to go take care of my parents.
Now is the time for us to
trust ourselves, be confident, and help others as much as possible.
Now is the time that we don't let microaggressions slide.
Show kindness and compassion to anyone and everyone we meet.
Now's the time to take care of ourselves and each other.
Now is the time for us to work together to end gun violence.
The time is always right to do what is right.
Now is the time to be someone's friend.
Now is the time to build coalition with elders and young people to effect change.
And it's time to recycle.
Now is the time for all of us to respect each other.
For all of us to make certain that children and families all over the world have the same opportunities, rights, and privileges to enjoy an exceptional education.
Now is the time
for me to help the community, help others speak up.
Now is the time for everyone to be true to themselves and others.
Now is the time to love your community.
For me to teach my 5-year-old that he can make a difference in this world.
Now it's time to do what is right.
Now is the time to be inclusive.
And now is the time to be kind.
Now is the time to help other people in need.
It's easy to think about what's right. It's tougher, much tougher, to do what is right.
Now is the time to speak up against hatred.
The time is always right to be yourself.
The time is always right to do what is right. And now is the time to open my heart and to reach across lines, to understand and accept differences.
Now is the time to act.
The time is always right to do what is right.
Now is the time to tackle global warming.
Now it's time to keep working so that everyone who wants to go to college can.
Now is the time to reverse global degradation.
The time is always right to follow your gut instinct.
Now it is time for me to help the community and help pick up trash.
And now is the time to create abundant education and leadership opportunities for women and people of color here in the U.S. and all over the world.
Now is the time to make good choices.
Now is the time for us to erase the lines between us and them.
Now is the time to
stop bullying.
Now is the time to rescue the future for our grandchildren's grandchildren.
Now is the time for peace education. There are a lot of challenges out there to tackle and hard conversations that we need to have. So let's support our teachers and our kids in finding their voice.
Now is the time to be creative, diverse, and make a change for the better.
Now it's time to believe women.
Now is the time to start growing flowers.
And now is the time to engage in service work.
And now is the time to do something about climate change.
Now is the time for us to take action.
Now is the time to stop global warming. Now it is time for me to stand up.
And now it's time for our generation to vote.
Now's the time for us to get serious about taking care of our planet.
And now it's time for us to care about human rights.
And now it's the time to protect our environment so my generation and future generations can live a better life.
The time is always right to do what is right. Now is the time to stand against police brutality.
Now is the time to take creative risks.
The time is always right to do what is right.
The time is always right to do what's right.
Now is the time we must change.
Now is the time to raise awareness about the Me Too movement.
It's time for equal pay for women.
Now is the time to engage in world peace.
Now is the time to be courageous and step outside our comfort zones.
Now is the time to work to improve our relationship with our own fears.
And now is the time for us to share our love with the world.
For all of us to support those in need, no matter where they've come from or what they look like. The time is always right to do what is right.
Now is the time to take care of the environment. Now is the time for us to stop racism and religious persecution.
Now is the time to end violence around the world.
Now is the time for us to fight for animal rights.
To help with climate change.
Now it's the time for us to help the poor.
For me to make small and large changes to the things that I do every day in order to have a long-term positive impact on the future health of our planet.
Now is the time for us to be happy.
Now it's time to be a good person.
We say yes to creativity.
We say yes to creativity.
We say yes to hope.
We say yes to hope.
Now it's time to be clear about what it is that we value, why we value it, and what it means when we devalue it. Now is the time for us to make sure we're taking action and taking a stand.
We say yes to the future.
We say yes to the future.
If our children should live to see the next century, what change will they see? What progress will we have made? This is our chance to answer that call. This is our moment. This is our time.
I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.